Good morning, Ugly Mug marketing friends and followers. Welcome to another edition of Ugly Mug Marketing Coffee Chats, the live show where we drink our coffee and chat about business, marketing, leadership, and everything in between. My name is Hannah Balia, and I am the Director of Communications and Teaching here at Ugly Mug. And today I am really excited to be sitting down with our friend Meredith Waguespack. Meredith is the owner of Sweet Baton Rouge, a locally women's owned business located in Perkins Rowe in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Sweet Baton Rouge makes unique Louisiana lifestyle t-shirts, and they have locally sourced accessories and all kinds of fun design and printed apparel with comfort and quality in mind. And we have had the privilege of getting to know Meredith and her team over the past year, and her journey to entrepreneurship is truly remarkable. And I am really excited again. Can you tell I'm excited? I'm really excited for y'all to learn from her today. Welcome to Coffee Chats, Meredith.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I love the Ugly Mug team, and I had the pleasure of meeting you earlier this year as well. And anytime that someone wants to learn a little bit about my journey of becoming an entrepreneur, it just is very humbling to be asked. And so I appreciate your time with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for making time for me today. I know you've been on the road and traveling and doing all the things. And so before we dive into really the heart and the meat of our conversation today, tell us a little bit about you. Who is Meredith? What do you like to do for fun? And then we'll dive into all the other things.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'm Meredith. I am a North Louisiana girl. So I grew up in a small town called Athens, Louisiana. And I am so proud of my northern roots of Louisiana. I moved to Baton Rouge when I was 19 years old. I didn't move for college. I later went back to college when I was 23 years old, and I graduated when I was 27. And I have a college degree in marketing from Southeastern University, Lion Up.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm a mom of three, so I had the wonderful pleasure of being able to, my children were born while I was still a child, basically. My two older children, I had the opportunity to adopt them when they were much later in life, but I met my husband when I was around that, right when I went back to college, and he was a single father, and we have been together for 20 years. So we now have a 30-year-old and a 28-year-old. We also have he is going to be 16 in 24 days. Oh my gosh. and we have 6 grandchildren. So that's some personal stuff about me. Some things I love is reading. I love walking and running. I absolutely adore Mexican food. I love purple.
Same.
See? Yes. I love Mexican food. So those are all like personal things that I usually love to share, so people remember one of those things. And it's normally me being a grandparent that people And I also love blazers. So I don't have one on today, but I typically love to style my t-shirts with blazers.
Yes, I love that. I have noticed that about you. And I'm always like, look at Meredith out here with like the graphic tee and the blazer, and then she's rocking the sneaks. Like, it's a whole look. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That's really remarkable and so cool that you had the opportunity to adopt your husband's kids too.
I always say, like, I was, so my daughter and I, who's the oldest, we're 14 years apart. And, actually, she's just turned 30, so we're about 15 years apart, actually. And so we have such a beautiful bond of just being that close together. But I've also had this amazing journey of being able to be her mom first and now friend. And I learned so much wisdom directly from her. And my son also, I mean, he's been incredible to watch and grow. And just knowing, like, I was given this opportunity before I ever even knew it. You know what I mean? So I treasure them so much.
Yeah, I love that. I was telling Wayne the other day, I have a 10-month-old. And I was telling Wayne, I'm like, I feel like there's just been so much wisdom and so many stories from
Mhm.
just being a parent alone. And
And
that
you're
just
in it, like you're in the good times too, like raising, I mean, my two older children, I mean, they grew up so fast.
yeah,
And now we have our 16-year-old, and it's just, it just all happens so darn fast before you
yeah,
even know it. And so just, I like to tell other moms to just, even though you may feel like it may be in a really tough season or a hard season, just like sink in and just embrace and love it,
yeah,
because it's going to be gone before you know it.
totally. I know. I'm like, I feel like my daughter was just born yesterday. And then here I am planning her over the top first birthday party that I said I wasn't going to do, but now here I am. So guess we're doing it. Well, cool. Well, I want to dive into like your journey of entrepreneurship. So, you mentioned you went to school later
Yep.
and you became a mom to these two older kids. When in the midst of all of that, did the entrepreneurship journey start for you?
So it's kind of funny. So I always say that Sweet Baton Rouge was my next child in life, because my son was 18 months old whenever I started Sweet Baton Rouge. And it started just for a purpose to have an outlet of something to do. I was a stay-at-home mom, and at the time, we had actually started a children's dress line. It was my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law,
Okay.
and they, she sewed dresses, and so we started with like little A-line dresses, and then we got into the embroidery and monogramming, and I was like, oh well, we should throw a t-shirt in there and have like a little t-shirt, and she can make the shorts, and like it'd be like this little look. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it started. And then I literally had this one design created. It just said the word football on it. We did one in purple, one in black and gold. The purple one was purple and yellow. The purple one had a tiger paw in one of the O's, and then the black and gold one had a fleur-de-lis. And
Mm-hmm.
that is really what started the business. And my legal business name is just called Football Tees, because it just came directly from that t-shirt. Real a lot of thought put into that.
Yeah.
So but basically, like, it was popular. A lot of people really liked that particular t-shirt. It was on an American Apparel. It used to be like their it was called some type of t-shirt, track t-shirt maybe, but it was like
Okay.
their dry blend. And it was just an incredible fabric, and it was just such a simple design, which if you look at our catalog of designs, our more simple designs, there's always our home run bestseller. And
Right.
so yeah, so that's what kind of catapulted. We stopped doing the dress line. They got out of that. I started Football Tees, and I started with that design, and I literally had boxes of t-shirts in the back of my car, and I drove from stores from the Lake Charles, Lafayette area. I'm sorry, I had my
No,
phone on
good.
register. So I drove all the way to Lafayette, Lake Charles, and then all the way to New Orleans. And then because I'm North Louisiana girl, I would drive up to North Louisiana, and literally it was just that grassroots, just selling my product, literally like doing the wholesale in person out of the trunk of my vehicle. I had printed out little hang tags that you would tag into the t-shirt to make it look real professional. And
Yeah.
I had an invoice that I could just fill out, and they would write me a check or pay by card. And I mean, I did that for about a year or two, just really getting our brand out there. And then, just being more, just kickstarting it is kind of how I got started.
Yeah. And it's like no one else is going to go out there and grind and sell it but you, right?
Yeah.
And gosh, I love that. Yeah. So, and you kind of already mentioned this. So you were selling primarily to boutiques then, right? And
Yeah.
doing the wholesale side of things.
So we started just as wholesale only.
Okay.
And then later down the road, I ended up going and doing more retail. So we launched an online store, and we were actually online only for 10 years before I opened a storefront. And so our business model was heavier in the wholesale, growing the retail. And then over that 10-year period, I moved into an office space, and I was able to kind of transform that into a place where people could come shop, and we called it our showroom. And so all of those like little bitty nuggets and little bitty stepping stones led me to the direction in 2020 to open a storefront.
Yeah.
I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you did. Okay, so your legal name starts as you're selling basically like 2 versions of a t-shirt out of the back of your car. You're driving all over town. You're handwriting invoices. All of this is happening, but your brand originally started like Sweet Baton Rouge wasn't the brand initially, right? Like you said. You said it started.
Yeah,
How did you get to Sweet Baton Rouge?
And then I did create a Sweet Baton Rouge t-shirt very early on into having this business, and people loved it. Like they absolutely loved it. And it took me a very long time to transition the name to becoming Sweet Baton Rouge. It wasn't until 2018 that at the end of 2018 that I actually made that transition. Because like I mentioned, I started with wholesale first. I'm sorry, that's my dog if you heard her. I started with wholesale first. And so when I would go to market and present our brand in front of these retailers, they didn't really like the fleur-de-lis, and they didn't really like the word football tees. And so I was like, well, I need to find ways to make this more marketable and more approachable. So when we're marketing ourselves to stores, that they want to purchase our brand. And so we played for years between just trying to keep that football tees name, because I wanted to be as consistent and non-confusing as possible. And it's crazy the amount of business I was able to generate with a horrible name. And so I went to, my website was Shop Football Tees, because that's just the domain that I was able to buy at the time to kind of match the business name. And so we tried to acronym that to just like SFT and make that super cool, or call it Southern Football T-shirts. And so we tried so many things, and nothing ever really truly felt like home, or like this was the branding that I was supposed to have and I was meant to have. And so, I mean, I went through a lot of trial and error, a lot of changes from conception of like starting the business all the way up into 13 years in business, because we rebranded last year, not with our name, but just more of a brand.
Like the style guide and all of that stuff, right?
The style, the fonts, even our PD, which is our pelican, he's our mascot. When we developed the PD, he was wonderful. But it just like all the other names and all the illustrations, it just did not feel like home. And so we own a restaurant as well, and we worked with a branding company in 2022. And I really loved how we integrated with them and how we worked with them to build the restaurant's brand identity from the ground up, which wasn't really something that I ever was able to do or feasible or financially, was secured to do something like that. And so last year I just pulled the plug and I said, I think, this is the phase I need to be in. This is the direction, no more changes. Like I wanted to be completely happy with where the brand and aesthetics looks. And so being that I'm the visionary, I always know like where I'm trying to take us and what kind of feel and vibe and aesthetics. And it's just sometimes you can't portray that enough to get exactly what you want. And so I say this to you, if you are in business and you're in this branding phase of developing your brand, work towards the direction to get exactly what you want. So that way you don't have to continue to keep trying other things until it may take you 13 years like it did me to really settle in to where I'm at. But I will also say I wouldn't be where I am today either without
all of that.
those things that circled around to get me to where I am today either. So I don't take anything, I don't regret anything I've done as far as like the branding side, because it's taking me this whole amount of time to really narrow down who my audience is, who the language, the way we want to speak to them, how we want them to experience Sweet Baton Rouge through our visuals, to our website, to our social media. So all of that plays a role that I may not have really even known to do 13 years ago.
Yeah, and some of those things weren't even around to worry about, like we think about how much social media has grown even over the course of these last 13 years and all of the new features and reels and TikTok and places that you can be and trying to determine if you want your brand to show up there or if you should be there or if your target audience is even hanging out there, all of those things. It's just like,
it's so exhausting too. Like I was watching a podcast the other day and just really like there's social media is moving so fast that it's so easily to feel so burned out. And I'm feeling so burned out because it's just constantly having to create content and being so in tune and aware to making sure that you're creating the words that you want your audience to read, and you hope that they read it because you spend so much time and effort thinking about them and hoping that they're encouraged by it and see your efforts and see what you're doing. And not just like scrolling to be scrolling.
Yeah,
to build that community and that engagement can sometimes be challenging in the social media world at times.
Definitely. But it's like you can't even get to that creating and any of that until you really clearly identify that brand and that audience and like all of that really needs to be, honed in or at least have some level of a starting point, right? As your brand is evolving, you're going to learn more and more about your customers over time. So
I definitely like if you're a newcomer, take the time to really think through all the different marketing aspects of who you want your business to be. It's okay that you can adapt and you can change over time, but at least building like that foundation that I didn't start with, I think it could have saved me a lot of time. But it's also just so important to just get a Google Doc and just brain dump all your ideas down. It'll at least propel you to be a little bit more organized in your thoughts than maybe I was in the beginning. But hey, I'm a doer. I'm going to say I'm going to do something. I'm just going to run out and go do it. Like I was telling you before we started, we just started a new business doing screen printing, which we've always outsourced our screen printing locally and have built a really wonderful relationship. And we're going to continue to work with them as well. And we're in this major learning phase. But I did put a lot of time and effort in investigating and researching, but sometimes in business, you're still not going to know the things you need to know until you find out all the things you didn't know.
That's so good. That's so true.
That's on skills learning,
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, we've kind of talked about like this whole evolution and growth, and the brand has evolved, and from back of the car selling wholesale to having a storefront. Like, tell us a little bit about what scaling the business has looked like in each season. Like, how did you know it was time to go from wholesale to maybe having a website, and then from having a website to now getting into the brick and mortar store realm? What did that look like for you? What were the signs that you were kind of looking for as each of those shifts happened?
Sure. So for wholesale, I knew so we were a cash flow only business. And I like to share. So, I mean, my husband loaned me $500 when we first started our business. And so what I did with that money was I put that towards inventory. I secured to be a consigner at the Royal Standard here in Baton Rouge. Okay. And I just had like an aha moment because a photo had popped up on my Facebook, Instagram from I think it was 2013. So my business started in 2010. And so you have to go through like all the baby steps, or at least for me, I'm super conservative when it comes to how I'm going to make decisions. And so I took that money, I invested that into some inventory and being able to be in a little space. It was like a bookshelf at the Royal Standard. And I was able to just build my business by being in that space, people buying my t-shirts in person and reinvesting the money every time back into the business. And in the meantime, I was also trying to do these wholesale trade shows, trying to just really market myself. Facebook and Instagram has just changed so much. So in 2010, it was just so much more approachable to be a business on social media and for people to see what you're putting out there to others. And so I was able to have so much better reach with our retailers and to be able to market to them. And so, I had two fronts I basically was working. One was our wholesaler retailers. So trying to drive traffic to our wholesale website, or even I think before I had a wholesale website, it was just me invoicing them through QuickBooks. So taking their order, and everything we've always done is print every week. So I never have a huge influx of inventory that's always accounted for. And so I'm always printing every single week. And so my wholesale orders a lot of times are print on the demand, which is still, they may have to wait 1 to 2 weeks for their order, but my turnaround is always going to be so much faster than if they go to market and they place an order. It could be anywhere from a month to 6 months out. And so we've really tried to always keep that front in mind, that we can turn around so much faster and to be able to get graphic tees into your store. And so really worked heavily on the wholesale side while I was trying to build the retail side. I did Royal Standard for a little while. And then I launched the website. And I remember the first time I ever got an online order was in October. And it was just the most exciting, you see that little graphic of people doing a little dance as a local business owner when you get an order. Well, it's true. It was the most exciting thing ever to see somebody go from social media to our website to place an order. And so that's been really exciting to watch that online business really grow. I think we've hit over 70,000 orders on our online store. And that's just, sometimes I take that for granted. And I think I take a lot of things for granted at times because I'm so busy on trying to focus on the future and where I'm trying to go and all of that stuff, that I don't necessarily sometimes just appreciate that we've had that many customers purchase through our store. And then same for wholesale. Wholesale has, it has ebbed and flowed over the last almost 14 years. And trade shows aren't necessarily the same as they were before. Driving traffic to our wholesale site isn't necessarily the same as it was, and same for social media. So I feel like you're constantly having to adapt in finding ways of how to serve your wholesale customers and how to get in front of them that meets their needs and meets them right where they are. And having a storefront helps me be able to kind of know what their needs are, because I'm knee deep in it with the store.
Yeah, that's so true. Because it's you're seeing what people are coming in and buying and too in your storefront. And you can probably almost tell them, hey, this one's been really popular. Customers are really loving this, because y'all are serving the same people. I mean, you're obviously serving them from the wholesale perspective. That's one of your targets, but it's also still that person that's coming in and shopping in the store.
She's the same person that buys from me that also wants to buy at their store. And, it's just trying to bring us together for our consumers to see how much she loves wearing t-shirts and she loves supporting local as well. And she may want to buy it more at her store than necessarily through me. So it's just trying to educate our retailers that just trying to get them to buy on a monthly basis, that we promise those customers are going to be so loyal and keep coming back, because we see it every single day in our storefront. And to circle back, so I had our showroom for 5 years. And in that 5-year period, so I was 5 years online, 5 years with the showroom before I moved into our first storefront. And so during that second 5-year period, I was able, we had that showroom, and on top of the showroom, we rented a space out during the holiday seasons in 2018 and 2019. And Sweet Baton Rouge was the brand that was selling our t-shirts. So that was kind of the reason why we made the name shift in 2018, was because it was the Sweet Baton Rouge local pop-up. And it was a holiday marketplace. So we catered to our t-shirts, plus an incredible lineup of local businesses that came out and participated. And we did all the legwork, the marketing. I hired people to work the store, all the things to actually physically run a storefront. And it was for 1 week. But you saw people come out and had a desire to not only buy our t-shirts in person and tell us how excited they were to be able to come shop in Perkins Rowe and buy our shirts, but to also be able to support all these incredible local vendors all at the same time. And so the first year was like our trial, let's see how it goes. And then in 2019, I released our Ultimate Tailgate, which was our first like outdoor market at Perkins Rowe. And then we had the holiday market, which consisted of 2 weeks that year. And then we also, I wanted to kind of bring in, I brought in like this coffee vendor, and she created this adorable coffee cart. So she was there selling coffee and then had breakfast items. So she was there throughout the day. Then we also had partnered with a boutique who set up half the store as a boutique. And then we had just different fun events throughout the whole 2-week series to draw people to come shop with us. And so at the end of 2019, I was like, all right, let's start looking for a place for me to move and continue on this concept. Yeah. And so 2020, I signed our lease at Electric Depot to start construction. That was in February. And then March happened. And thankfully, we were able to keep the construction beginning. I think we started at the end of April or early May, and we opened August 1st of 2020. And, that was not how I would have intended of opening a storefront kind of year, but, we had to kind of navigate those challenges. But at the same time, that is when I had to learn to begin to delegate. I had to hire employees, and basically I just heard this morning. I drove for 5 hours, so I've listened to a lot of stuff this morning too, but literally when you're transitioning and it's just yourself to employees, write every single thing down while you're in motion in a Google Doc, because when it's time to pass the torch on to somebody, you have all of these things already written out, and it's much easier to train somebody and onboard them because you've already done all the hard legwork. So that was hard for me just because I never did that. And I had to sit down and think step by step of how to do everything. Yes. And that was probably one of the hardest things I had to learn how to do, was to delegate and to let go of things, because for 10 years, for the most part, it was a one-woman show. I had a consultant and a designer who really helped build Sweet Baton Rouge, but at the end of the day, it was me doing all the grunt work and all the things. And you don't have time sometimes to think about writing all that stuff down, but I definitely think it's so important. Take some time out of your day if it's just you, because you will have employees, because you will continue to keep growing. And so fast forward to where we are today, October makes 14 years in business.
Crazy. Congratulations.
And so, yeah, we decided in November of last year to move from Electric Depot to Perkins Rowe. And it was kind of just a true full circle moment for us because, as I mentioned, a lot of the things that we started were in Perkins Rowe.
Yeah.
And there was just a great opportunity that we were given to us that we did not want to pass up on, that we felt like, again, the brand took like a whole new aesthetic, a new direction. And I felt like that is where we needed our home base to be. It was closer for me, logistically for where I live. And so it just felt right. And it was like, I just got to figure out how to do this to make it and do it the right way. Yeah. And you go into our store now, like we are so branded, perfectly purple in my store. Yeah. Like I feel like the vision,
the wallpaper.
Like I feel like the vision of my desires of what I've been trying to pull together out of my mind has really come into play last year. And just really like diving into my employees and then just, becoming like, I feel like we've really become more of this brand and this perception of who we are and where we're going.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm just thinking back to, like, you've given us so much wisdom this entire time, but jumping back to when you were talking about the growth and things that, man, I wish I would have written things down, systems and processes. Like, that's so true. Like, that's such a helpful piece of nugget, whether someone's starting a brick and mortar store or an online business, it doesn't matter. There are those systems and processes that you're building and doing in real time, and you might not even realize it as you're kind of learning and grinding, through the process. And gosh, I've even been learning that internally.
Yeah.
As I've been working with different types of clients, and they have different, CRMs that we're integrating with and things that they're doing. And so I'm like, wait, all of this has been living in my brain. I need to write this down so that, as I'm training somebody else to take on this type of client, or, maybe we start working with someone else and they also use, this software, that someone's not feeling totally lost, or that I then have to jump in and do everything. Because the other point that you made that's so crucial in growth and scaling is delegating and learning to let go of those things. And, whether you're a small business owner, an entrepreneur, or someone who is working internally within a small business and you're growing your own team within that company, that's huge too. Delegating is so hard and challenging. But in order to successfully do that, having that Google Doc, even if it's just the brain dump, like you said, with random thoughts and notes, like that's going to be so key to that success.
And Google Doc and Google Sheets should always be your friend in business. Like this new business that we just started. We're already I use ChatGPT to kind of help build out our manual. Cause like I said, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm like, I have done it all. So let me put all these things in and then give me back direction. And then I'm going to reword it to what I just learned. So that's been super helpful. And then, just even being able to track how long our processes are taking us. And then there's so many different screens. So putting a screen to a design. So we have it labeled. So I'm definitely in this new business. I am putting the same things I just said into play in this new business. And I feel like it's definitely helping me stay more organized in my thoughts, because I have a place for everything versus before I did not. And I also want to just note there's a book out there and a program. It's called the EOS system. And then the book is called Traction. So I read Traction in 2019 or 2020. And basically it's just teaching, even if it's just yourself, but as you build a team, and in leadership, you're always wanting to finding the right people to fill the right seats, and then you leading them into their position and having all of these different roles and responsibilities once, because you have them all written out, is only going to help make that whole process of employment for employees just to move better, more efficiently within your organization. So Traction's a really cool book, and it might be a higher level for like big businesses, but I think you can take, which I did, I took a lot of it and scaled it down to my own business.
Yeah, I will drop, for those of y'all that are watching the replay or watching with us live, I will drop the link to Traction in the comments below. We always love a good book recommendation. We're always reading over here at Ugly Mug. And that idea of like having the right people in the right seat is also, I feel like, something from a book that I read, Good to Great. They talk about you want to get all the right people on your bus, but then you want to make sure that they're in the right seat on the bus so that you can, keep the bus moving in the right direction. So
because I mean, even in entrepreneurship, it's so hard when you don't have the right people in the right seats, and you have to make really hard decisions, because ultimately those people could be holding your business back or holding your desires back or trying to lead you in the wrong direction. Or it could be, having something to do with your employees, just the, what is the word I'm trying to say? Just the culture that you're creating. And if it's not like aligning with your values, then sometimes you have to, that's the hard part of being a boss,
Yeah, for sure.
It teaches you, so you can look out for those things and those personality traits, so kind of what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah. At Ugly Mug, we have a very slow hiring process, but I feel like over the years that has served us really well. Like we always say, hire slow, fire fast. Like, and thankfully we have not had many situations like that because we have taken the time to really make sure that that person is going to culture. Like I'm always like, I can teach you how to run Facebook ads. Like I can teach you, there are a lot of skills that I can teach somebody, but character, work ethic, those are things that you either have or you don't, or that you've gained or experienced over time, right? And so I'm like, if I find somebody with the right attitude, with the right mindset, I can teach you how to do the thing,
I agree.
And so that's always been our motto here at Ugly Mug. I know we're over time, so I want to wrap things up here quick. I know you've got lots of things to do, but just one last question I really wanted to end on is, as you're heading into year 14 of business, what is the one thing that you are just really looking forward to?
I want to survive this year. I really put a lot of thought into opening this second business, and it's challenging. And I feel like I am having to work overtime on my mindset and my positivity. And so I didn't want necessarily on year 14 to have anything new in my life. I just wanted to just enjoy being in one spot and just enjoy the business. But that didn't happen. So my goal for this year is just basically, I'm on survival mode, to be very honest, but I do hope, like I do all of our marketing at Sweet Baton Rouge. That's the one thing that I haven't delegated away. And I hope that I can continue to make the right strides in my marketing strategy that I'm doing, and that I'm relating. One of my biggest goals this year going into of 2024 was to be more engaging, showing up more personally, trying to be more personable to my customers, and to just have more engagement, more using social media for what it is, and it's to be more social. And so if I can finish out this year and show that I was more social and that my customers really got to see me more on a personal, deeper level, I think I would win this year for that reason.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true. Sometimes we forget the social part of social media. We get so hung up on showing off our product, or, like we forget to show our face, right? Like, and especially for you, like you have built the brand, like you are the brand, the brand, you've helped it, you've had your hand in every step of it evolving over the last 14 years. And so, who better to show up, right, with a face than you. And we forget too on social media, we wait for people to come and comment on our stuff. It's like you can go out and you can show up on other people's things. One brand that I feel like does that so well is Chubby's. Like they'll go and comment, or user generated content too. Like they'll go and find the posts of people wearing their swim trunks, or the families with the whole matching set of swimsuits. Like they're so good at like being social on social media. And I really feel like a lot of us could use that goal. And
I feel like we've all kind of, it can be almost so zeroed in. I got to sell.
Yes.
That's not how it all started for me, at least. Like I was so much more personable and so easygoing to just hop on and make either a dumb post or just be more personable. And over the years, I just have slowly gotten nervous with the followers and just everything. Like I've gotten more just uncomfortable with it. And so I told myself, like, I have to be more comfortable with it this year.
Yeah.
Be more social.
Yeah. Be more social, everybody.
And then one other thing too, like I'm just really hoping, like I really want to continue to like have conversations like this, because I feel like it's so valuable for new businesses starting, that because it's such a lonely place to be. Your friends and other people sometimes may not be able to relate with how lonely it can be. Not even your employees sometimes. Just owning a business and just the weight that sits on your shoulders sometimes. And so I hope that through the end of this year, that's something too that I can continue to be more, conversational about the woes and the good, the bad, and the ugly of owning a business.
Yeah, definitely. Wayne always talks about that too internally. When we're working with people that are on the beginning or have been in the entrepreneurship game for a while, like they might be feeling lonely, like, and we want to be in their corner and supporting them and relating to them, or being able to make a connection between them and somebody else who's maybe a few steps ahead of them, so that they can feel better, right? So that they can sleep better at night, because that's what Wayne always talks about. He was, we were talking about this a few years ago internally too, just what is it that we actually do here at Ugly Mug? Like we actually want to like help entrepreneurs get better sleep at night, because they're feeling lonely, they're losing sleep, they're laying in bed, they're like laying there looking at the ceiling, counting sheep, worrying about all of these things in their business, and meanwhile their friend that's working for a Joe Schmo company down the road, they might have their own stresses and worries, but it's not the same as really being solely responsible for this success, right? Or the failure in certain seasons of your business, or the employees that you now, have to make payroll for.
There's just so much more that I'm responsible for than I was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And some nights I lie awake at night because I'm just worrying about what the future looks like. Or I'm also just so excited that I know the goals that I'm trying to achieve, and it's like, how am I going to get there? And I got to pump myself up every day to try to get to that goal. And so it's definitely like, you got to be your own cheerleader for yourself. But if you can find a strong community of people that are in your corner as well, that's amazing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Meredith. I know we went like 15 minutes over time. I so appreciate your time today. Yeah, I'm glad. And I know that there's just been so much goodness jam-packed in here. Y'all, if you couldn't stay on the whole time and watch live, I hope you came back and tuned in. Or if you're catching the replay, thank you for your time today and hanging out with me and Meredith. Y'all, I'm going to drop that book that she mentioned down here in the comments. What was the name of the book again? Traction. I'm going to drop the link to Traction. Also going to drop the link over to Sweet Baton Rouge so y'all can take a peek. If you're not in the Baton Rouge area, you can take a peek online. They have so many fun graphic tees. They make great gifts, great everyday wear for you too. Also tons of other fun products on the site as well. Meredith, thank you again for being a guest on Coffee Chats.
No,
maybe we'll have to have you on again sometime later. And you can
let's do a follow-up so I can tell you how the screen printing business is.
I'm like, we need a follow-up on screen printing because right now I know it's a little bit of a struggle getting there, learning a little bit. Yeah. I think before we got on too, you were like, you don't know what you don't know until you actually start doing the thing too. So yeah, thank you all again for tuning in today. Next week, we are going to be back, same time, different time. I take that back. We're coming in on a different time. Next week, I'm going to be chatting with our marketing manager, Hannah Broom. Y'all, she's got so much goodness and so much wisdom. Yes.
She's like double wins over there with the Hannah.
Yes. At one point when we were interviewing people, we were like, it is not a requirement for your name to be Hannah to work at marketing. Hannah is going to be on next week. We're changing the time just a little bit. She's going to be joining us in the afternoon. I think it's 12:30 Central, 1:30 Eastern. So come back for another edition of Coffee Chats next week. We'll catch y'all next time.
Thank you.